Westmoreland with the Columbia Tribune, and I'm here today with Billy Polansky. Billy is the executive director of the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture, and he's also a new columnist joining the Tribune to write about urban agriculture and what people can do here in Columbia. So with the column publishing for the first time in tomorrow, the Wednesday edition, we've got Billy on to talk a little bit about the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture and what urban farming is. So Billy, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Charles. Happy to be here. Happy to start this new column and start getting the word out about urban agriculture.
Yeah. Well, you know, and funny enough, my first Facebook Live video was with Adam at the Harvest Hootenanny.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got into the Columbia urban agriculture scene pretty early on in my time in Columbia.
Well, good. We're glad you could be a part of that, and that's just one of the things that our organization does that helps us connect with the community and get people to see how their food is grown. So we're going to have another one this year. It's already planned for October 6th.
Excellent. So for those that might not be as familiar, can you talk a little bit about what is urban agriculture and what's the mission of the center?
So what we want to, the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture, what we want to do is connect people to their food, and we've sort of lost a lot in the last few generations where there's fewer people living in rural areas, there's fewer people who are farming as a profession, and yet we all still eat every day. More people are moving to cities, and it's agriculture that has made cities possible. Without agriculture, we couldn't live in cities, and so it's really an important thing. We all should be eating 3 meals a day, and so it's that connection is something that we don't want to lose. And so urban agriculture is really important. It's more than just the food that's produced. You think of your backyard garden, and it can produce a lot, and it can produce a lot of healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables for you. But it really goes beyond just those pounds of food. It gets you outside, meeting your neighbors. It helps build community. It connects you with the outdoors. There's stress relief value, and it helps you understand the larger agriculture picture too. It's something we rely on every day, and it can be a way to connect you to that and bring you a little closer and understand it.
You know, there was something interesting that I never thought of to kind of provide the scope of what you just said. In your column, you said that 1% of the U.S. population, I believe, farms. But it's providing 100% of the food. Right.
So there's that's if you look at it like from a risk perspective, that's kind of a risky way to go, is to have fewer and fewer people, and that 1% of people, the average age is 58, the average. So there are fewer and fewer young farmers, and so who will continue farming as we move on? And so that's one of the roles that urban agriculture can play, is that people see, it's a show me state, right? We're here, and so if you see it, then it becomes something that's possible. We've had people who have volunteered with us or interned with us and decided to become farmers just because they had that experience. And so it's really meaningful by just having, it's like a billboard. People see it, people drive by our garden, our farm, in their neighborhood gardens, and you see it, and it becomes a part of your environment, and it changes things.
Now, what are some of the most common questions you get from people that show interest in urban farming, starting a backyard garden, even if it's just a tomato in a pot?
A lot of questions, because there's sort of a lot of mystery around gardening, and it's a lot simpler than if you have enough sunlight. That's really the number one question, and probably the number one issue, is that a lot of our backyards have trees in them, and most vegetable crops need full sunlight 8 hours a day to grow. And so a lot of people don't want to put gardens in their front yard where there's usually fewer trees. And so there's sort of finding that spot, that sweet spot where you have enough sunlight, and it's in an accessible part of your yard. You can get water to it. Some people don't want it in their front yard. Some homeowner associations don't allow gardens in the front yard. So navigating all that, and then really just being persistent of watering when it's hot and pulling weeds when they come up. We said everybody's a gardener in March, but in August, not so much. So you got it's that sticking with it.
So they got to be willing to give up some sunlight in their yard.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, you mentioned in the column, you just mentioned again, that part of the mission is connecting people to their food. But there's a whole other list of reasons that you gave as far as getting people unconnected from technology and just outdoors. Can you kind of list some of the other benefits of those that undertake, urban gardening?
Sure. Yeah. Here we are on Facebook Live. But if we're so glued to our phones and our screens, and I'm guilty just as much as the next person. But sometimes I get home from work at the end of the day, and I'm looking at stuff on my phone. I'm like, wait, it's beautiful outside. And sometimes you need a reason to be outside. If you have a garden, then you can put your phone down and you can go out and you can pull the weeds and you can see what's happening. You notice. You start noticing things that you never noticed before. Even in town, like that's one of the big things is that we often think that nature is like Rockbridge State Park or the Rocky Mountain National Park, but there's nature here in town, and so you can, in your backyard, you're going to find, you're going to start noticing the birds. You're going to start noticing the different bugs, and there's praying mantises, and sort of all of these things that maybe you didn't. You're going to notice like, oh, well, this tree shades the sunlight a little bit, and you really learn a lot more about your surroundings because the tomatoes over here aren't growing as much just because they're a little shaded, and you didn't realize that part of your yard was shaded, and you sort of become a little more connected to your local environment, and it's really neat how that happens. It's not, it just natural. You just notice when you're outside, and so gardening gets you outside, and I think that is one of the biggest benefits. Where some days I get to the end of the day and I realize I've been inside all day. Even me, I work at the Center for Urban Agriculture, and I go to work and I'm in my office some days all day, and I realize I haven't even been outside. And so gardening is an awesome excuse to be outside, and just being out there, relieving stress, and it's a great family activity too. You can get the kids involved, and something that we see a lot is, do you remember as a kid maybe your mom, your dad telling you you're not getting up until you eat those peas?
Oh yes.
And so vegetables in some ways have become like they're yucky or they're punishment almost for until you get up off of the table. But what we found is that when you get kids involved and they have some buy-in and ownership into that process, that they're asking for vegetables. And so I don't know if I put this statistic in the article, but 86% of people in Boone County don't eat the recommended fruits and vegetables. So that's like...
What was that percentage?
86.
86.
So, they say 5 a day, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. 86% of us here in Boone County don't eat that 5 a day. And so it starts with kids. It starts with building those healthy habits, and gardening is a great way to do that because we have field trips of kids out at our urban farm, and they're there and they get to harvest and they'll wash it and they'll chop it up and make a salad and make a salad dressing, and then all of a sudden they're just stuffing their face with spinach. And under any other circumstance, if you had just given these kids a bag of spinach and said, hey, eat this, you probably wouldn't have gotten that same result. And so it's a way to make food and healthy food and being outside exciting, because everybody likes to eat, everybody has to eat, and we can make eating healthy fun.
Yeah. Speaking of being outside, phase 1 of the Ag Park.
Yeah.
The funds have been raised. Ground I believe was broken already, and there will be more construction happening throughout this year.
Right.
What is still needed for phases 2 and 3? I've seen the blueprints, and there's going to be multiple stations for vendors and a covered spaces, office areas, which I believe those are parts of the latter phases.
Right. So where we're at right now is last week we got bids from the contractors. And so we're in the process of selecting the right bid and starting on that phase 1 construction this year, like you said. We're actually, right now, we're at a unique point where we have the option to do some of those phase 2 items now. And we actually have if we can raise a little bit more money in the next 4 weeks, we can get a jump start, because it's something, the contractors bid on a number of things, but we didn't have to select them all. And so if we can raise another $300,000 in the next 4 weeks, then we will be able to build our barn, which is a part of phase 2, which really opens up a big, sort of a really big part of the park. Because when we have the barn, then we have gardens, and we have, you know, that whole 10-acre site really opens up. Phase 1 is the farmers market building and the plaza, and sort of the restroom, sort of the core of it, and it's going to allow the farmers market to move in. So that's sort of an immediate need we have right now. But yeah, phase 2 is getting CCUA established at the site, getting us there with our facilities and our barn, and building out our urban farm, which is going to grow food for the food pantry, and we're going to have demonstrations for the public to see. It's going to be a city park, so you'll strolling through, and you'll get to see the herb garden and the, you know, how different plants grow.
And it's going to be located right next to the Ark.
That's right.
Correct? So people can go work out and they get something healthy.
That's right. It's a neat counterbalance of physical activity and fresh, healthy food. So you can buy food from the farmers. You can see how it grows at the farm, and then yeah, you can go work out too. It's a neat yin and yang of healthy lifestyle.
Now I'm going to provide the contact information in just a moment. But for somebody who wanted to donate, what's the best way for them to do that?
So to the agriculture
Yes.
park. So you can go. You can send us a check in the mail. You can. All of the information is on our website, which is buildthistown.org. And so we're accepting donations, and pledges are good too. So we don't necessarily need. A lot of people are making pledges over multiple years, and so those are good because we can use those pledges as sort of a promise of that future income.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Billy. If you'd like to know more about the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture, you can go online to columbiaurbanag.org or call 573-514-4174. Billy, thank you.
Thanks, Charles.